So we're on break now.
Hello and welcome to the Millennial Entrepreneur. My name is Lindsea K. Wilbur and you're joining us on ThinkTech Hawaii to ask the question, what does it mean to be a millennial entrepreneur in this day and age? What does it mean for a young person to undertake an enterprise, to be an entrepreneur, to see an opportunity, to take that opportunity and use determination to bring a vision into the world? Last episode, we had Patrick Dowd, the CEO and founder of the Millennial Trains Project, come to talk to us about what it means to evoke leadership, to develop leadership, and how that leadership then translates into, starting an enterprise, to making the world a better place. He talked to us about his series of transcontinental train journeys where young millennials crowdfund $5,000 to earn their spot on 3 vintage train cars that act as a space, a platform, an incubator, TED Talks on wheels, and roll through 7 cities across America, investigating the emerging edges of innovation in these cities that so often get ignored in the bustle and hustle of LA, San Francisco, and New York. Today on our show, we have Bryan D'Alessandro, founder of United Purpose, a New York-based organization that seeks to provide support for professionals who are seeking to make the world a better place. Thank you so much for joining us, Bryan. I'm happy that you're here. I met Bryan actually in New York City when I went to a showing of Continuum, a film by the Planetary Collective. Go check him out on Google, planetarycollective.com. And he spoke a little bit about his organization, and we remained in contact. And he's here to tell us a little bit about what he does and how he sees the entrepreneur of today and what their needs are. So can you tell us a little bit about United Purpose?
Yeah, absolutely. First off, thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. So United Purpose is really a deeply intentional community that comes together around finding and furthering our purpose. You know, in reality, it's at this point a big social experiment. We provide our members with one-of-a-kind experiences held in really unique locations across New York City, and they're all designed to cultivate a sense of curiosity, connection, and of course, purpose.
Yeah, so what does that mean exactly? I know that you've had a couple of events so far. So what does that translate to on the ground?
Yeah, so we've actually held 12 events so far. The final one of that push was the Out of This World event where we partnered with Planetary Collective, and we've really been experimenting with a wide diversity of formats and sizes and really bring people together under different contexts. And, this was really our community build stage to test our assumptions about what was needed and to really try to figure out what the audience wanted. And in doing so, we've learned that our audience is quite different than we initially had thought. So this had started a little over a year ago as United Purpose. There were a couple of previous iterations under different names before that, but this started to serve for entrepreneurs and for startup organizations. And we were really excited by the co-working space and looking in that realm as well. But we realized that not everyone should be an entrepreneur. While entrepreneurs are great and they're an important lifeblood for our economy and for our innovation, it's a very tumultuous space, and not everyone's personality is right for it. And I think that when people have been thirsting for a deeper sense of meaning, a deeper sense of purpose in the work that they do, they've realized the existing systems aren't serving them. And the poster child of that has been entrepreneurs and startups. And so a lot of people have gravitated there because that seems like an answer, and it is an answer, but there are multiples. We also look a lot at the intrapreneur, and I think that's the large makeup of our community. Over 85% of our members have full-time jobs, and they're not necessarily looking to leave it. They see themselves in a great position of access and power and resource where they are, and they're able to utilize that for creating change in the world around them.
Huh, interesting. Okay, so an entrepreneur is somebody who maybe undertakes something by themselves or in isolation, or how exactly do you differ between an entrepreneur and an intrapreneur?
Yeah, so my definition, I mean, in differentiating is an entrepreneur is someone who's doing it externally on their own, whether with a team or by themselves as a sole proprietor. They're doing that externally without a larger organization. An intrapreneur is working within an organization, and they're creating that same change with the spirit of an entrepreneur internally.
So would you say that somebody, joining United Purpose as a member, then doing projects within sort of that institution, would they be considered an entrepreneur if they're sort of working with United Purpose? Or is it more an entrepreneur who is working with a company that, is employing them and that sort of thing? Or, can it be something like more of working within a network, I guess?
Yeah, I think, more than anything, and look, labels are very tricky, and the lexicon out there is very loaded. So we've played around with how to communicate some concepts and ideas, and there's a lot of polarizing and stigmatic verbiage out there. And so we, for instance, made a point to never use the word social, because the second we were saying, all right, we're about social entrepreneurs or we're about social innovation, that pushed out a large percentage of people that just couldn't get past the trigger of the word social, either because they were like, oh, that's not me, or because they were like, okay, that's, this nonprofit, this crunchy world where it's just about doing good and digging wells in Africa. And, that's not what we mean by it, but there's that gap that needs to be bridged. And so, I get less stuck on how we use intrapreneur and entrepreneur and more clear about who we're speaking to and how we're looking to help them and the space that we're looking to hold for them. So regardless of how you classify yourself, or if you're looking to create change internally within an organization or through your own initiative or project, that's the other thing. These structures don't need to be permanent. They can be in a much shorter burst where we have projects that still embody these principles and put them into action, but they're not fixed or rigid. And so it could exist for any time frame as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if I answered your question directly. But.
Yeah, that was great. I really found it so interesting when you were saying people are attracted to the idea of being an entrepreneur because they're dissatisfied with these systems, of society, or, they're seeking disruption. They're seeking to create something new, and they're seeking to disrupt, which is kind of, in a lot of ways, what entrepreneurs do. They sort of disrupt, and then this disruption gets iterated by other entrepreneurs, causing sort of rejuvenation in the economy or in society. And maybe there are other ways to channel that urge to follow your purpose or to change something a little bit that you see, and it doesn't always have to fit into that technical sort of name of entrepreneur where you're trying to create a business model that makes a certain amount of money and that kind of thing, but rather you're just trying to do something to create something with other people that could be as short as just a project, or it could be artistic, it could be social, or it could be many other things other than what maybe is typically or in the mainstream world of economics defined as entrepreneur. I find that really interesting.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you bring that up, because I think we're in a really exciting time to that point. What we used to look at for our leaders in business was someone who came in with expertise and they knew what to do and how to do it, and it was this very masculine energy and how they owned that role. But now it's a much more, it's getting much more balanced with the feminine, where it's about that sense of creation and innovation and fluidity. And in fact, I would say that being an entrepreneur is about embracing change and not always being comfortable with it, but stepping up courageously in the, and staring in the eyes of that uncertainty and that change, because that's how the world is shifting. And that's, I think, why this birth of entrepreneurs has really blown up. These systems that used to be very supportive and very firm and fixed, they're not providing that same sense of security that they used to. when we look back at our parents and their parents' generation, they came into a career and that was a deep groove, that path, right? And they stuck with it, and there was loyalty, and they were rewarded for it, and they felt very safe and secure. That doesn't exist now, and it's increasingly falling away. And that's causing people to really start looking around and questioning where they're investing their time and what they're getting out of it. And so I think, the idea of success is also evolving. And success is a dangerous thing because I think it's tied to this destination mentality where we get fixated on the results and what that looks like at the end of the day, rather than the process and the intention for what we're doing. And that idea of purpose is really about that fulfillment that you get in doing the work that you love.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially with the millennial generation, I participated in online campfire live stream discussion the other day. The topic was millennials by millennials. So, young millennials discussing, the frequent stereotypes that you hear about millennials being lazy, selfish, that sort of thing. And, it's true. One of the millennials on the show, that's not true that they're selfish and lazy, but they're typically sometimes unemployed. That's like the big thing you hear is that, young millennials are unemployed and they're in debt and they can't find a job, and they are looking for what was previously, in previous generations, defined as success, and they're just not finding it. And so, one of the millennials who was speaking on this roundtable, she was talking about how, the way that we've typically viewed growth in society is, this economic growth of building, maybe isn't really working anymore, and we need to reevaluate how we define success, just as you said. And it really occurs to me, especially after my experience on the Millennial Trains Project, going across country, we're looking at all of these different kinds of, some of them are co-working spaces, common spaces, different, like a large compound that, was mixed use that somebody had created for what they called the new workforce. And it really does seem like there's a lot of this kind of invention going on, not so much entrepreneurship in the classic sense, but inventions of new ways to do things, of new ways to interact and to bring something into the world that, is not necessarily connected to, a business plan or a business model, like you were saying. So would you say that that's really who you've built United Purpose for? Are these kinds of people?
Yeah, I in fact think that everyone has these qualities within them, and we're now in this time where we've got to find these MacGyver solutions. It's not about building out this long-term plan for the perfect way that this is going to lay out. It's okay, what do we have lying around on the table, and how do we fashion that into a solution for the problem at hand? And being nimble and adaptive to the environment is increasingly important. So yeah, we're looking to, it's less about the specific person. The qualifications for us are people that are high performing, right? And that they get stuff done. They're not just talking, they're delivering, and that they come from a diverse background. So we really curate for that diversity, and they're looking to find and further that sense of purpose. So as far as what gets them in there, it's that, but then we're holding space for really exploring these ideas and for developing new tools. But I think the co-working sector is something that's very interesting to look at. I've spent a lot of time exploring that and had been a part of a couple of teams that were launching co-working spaces, and New York's the co-working capital of the world. And so it's been very interesting over the past 5 or 8 years to really see how that's shaped and evolved, and in some ways devolved. There's this idea that for co-working, a lot of it is about community and bringing people together and really having that support system, when in actuality it depends on where these co-working spaces are setting up and what the environment looks like. And so in New York, the real estate is so expensive that it actually takes these community organizers and puts them into this role of landlord. And while they start off with the intentions of cultivating this deeply connected community, they get in the business of getting butts in chairs. And on the other side of that, a lot of the people that are within the community renting desks or offices, they are startups and entrepreneurs, and most of them have their heads down trying to launch their business, so it doesn't leave that support there. Now, I think co-working is and I prefer collaborative workspaces, are a wonderful part of a greater whole. Now that ecosystem really needs to provide that diversity of services and opportunities that allows these members to interact and engage. And so having programming that's bringing them together, having peer-to-peer support, having mentorship programs, I think all of these elements become crucial for having a whole system that really thrives.
That's so interesting. Well, I look forward to hearing more about this ecosystem and where United Purpose fits within it. We're going to take a little break. My name is Lindsea K. Wilbur, and I'm here with Bryan D'Alessandro, the founder of United Purpose, a New York-based organization that seeks to support young professionals, young high-performance professionals who are seeking to make the world a better place. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll be back in a little bit.
We want to thank our underwriters.
Hawaiian Electric Company and its affiliates Maui Electric on Maui and Hawaii Electric Light Company on Hawaii Island are deeply committed to the communities they serve.
Galen Ho is a senior executive of BAE Systems, a global defense, security, and aerospace company.
The High Tech Development Corporation, the state's leading technology agency, attached to the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism.
Castle and Cook Hawaii, with a time-honored legacy that spans more than 160 years and revolves around its mission of investing in Hawaii, creating communities, and providing for the needs of our state.
Hawaii Gas, formerly the Gas Company, a proponent of the Liquefied Natural Gas Initiative, helping Hawaii achieve its transition to clean energy and a better energy future.
Collateral Analytics, a Hawaii-based tech company empowering the real estate industry with greater and faster access to the tools and data they need to make better informed property investment decisions.
I'm Nicole Horry. Thanks so much for joining us on ThinkTech.
I'm Maria Kashem. See you next time.
Hello, welcome to the Millennial Entrepreneur. You're watching ThinkTech Hawaii, and my name is Lindsea K. Wilbur. I'm having great discussion with Bryan D'Alessandro, the founder of United Purpose, about entrepreneurs, young people who are seeking to make a change in the world today, and the innovation ecosystem in New York City. So, Bryan, can you tell us a little bit about, first of all, like when you began to explore this kind of ecosystem, when you really began to notice it, and then how you came up with the idea of United Purpose and where you see yourself fitting in there.
Yeah, all right. So I guess I'll take it back to the beginning a little bit. So for me, it's really been born out of feeling a lack in certain areas of my life, and as I started exploring them, I learned that these were pains that a lot of people were feeling, and I wasn't the only one. And so that warranted some deeper exploration. For instance, I grew up as, labeled as an artist. I was always the creative one, and that was celebrated. And as I got older, as I got ready to go into, high school and then into college, it was like, oh, that's nice that you have that creativity, but what are you going to do in the real world? And I was sitting there just confused because I was always, told, like, you're an artist. And I didn't know what it meant. It was this label. But I didn't feel that I had a place to explore what that meant and really put that into action.
In the real world, right?
Yes, in the real world. And, I somehow managed to still take that path and go through university, studying fine arts, great university, and still that senior year, the question was posed, literally, actually, a book was handed to me. They were like, okay, so now it's time to start thinking about what you're going to do in the real world. And I was given a book, and I remember going down it. I could be a graphic designer. I could design, set design. I could be a creative director, and incidentally, I ended up falling into advertising. And that space was really exciting in a lot of ways and gave me some great tools, but there were things that I started noticing. I grew up on the cusp, right, as a millennial, where the technology was really being birthed, and I saw that transformation. And so when I entered the industry, there was space and time for mentorship. I had an amazing mentor when I entered the field, and they really supported and nurtured my progress. And I passed that down to some of the younger creatives that were coming in, but I quickly saw as technology increased that space disappeared. And then fear and control started to really bake into that system and that environment, and that kind of pushed me out, where I was like, okay, I've got to start questioning where I'm going to go next, and how this beautiful form of creative problem solving and storytelling that I believe advertising is, how that can manifest in a more authentic way. And so when I was looking to explore that, I realized there was no space to do it. I didn't have the support of others. I was getting a lot of naysayers, and people were telling me I was crazy for leaving this, cushy job that was successful on paper, but I wasn't fulfilled. And that's something that I hear time and time again from people that are going down this path. There's something that while they're being told they're successful, they're just not feeling fulfilled, and it leaves them wanting more and asking for more. And so, I started looking for those spaces that would allow me to really explore that and to develop that. And they didn't exist. And the ones that did, they were transient. So there are amazing events, and New York has no shortage of events with amazing people and all coming together for any reason under the sun, but there was not consistency. I wasn't getting the continued support. A lot of it was on that superficial level, and I was looking to dig in, and I think that we need that. And the other part of that is, the time we're living in, where online connections have really swung the pendulum out one way, and I think the online technology and tools is an amazing innovation that we have, but we've got to keep that in balance with coming together in person and having these physical connections, because it's no substitute for those. And so I started exploring what that could look like, because it didn't exist. And that's where I started looking at co-working spaces, and I saw there was great merit in that, but it was incomplete. And so in looking at what those elements that were needed, there were things that became very clear. So the space itself really needs to be conducive. It needs to break past the idea of networking or anything that feels forced or work. It needs to feel safe and conducive to drop your guard and essentially be vulnerable, to try new things out, to fail. I mean, failure is labeled as such a negative thing in our culture, and it's something that we have the ability to learn most from. And so flipping that has been important.
And sometimes they're really high stakes when you are going to an accelerator or something like that, or even a co-working space. Like you said, in New York, it's expensive real estate. In Hawaii, expensive is real estate's expensive too. And, if you're just starting out on your enterprise, you don't really know exactly how it's going to work out. Having that expense sometimes just doesn't make sense if it's, if you're focused on, that professional goal and trying to build that. It doesn't leave room for mistakes.
Yeah, and look, I do think, there are amazing co-working spaces out there, and they cater to very specific industries and niches, and I think that's great. But yeah, it's not for everyone. And having that diversity in on-ramps, I believe deeply in meeting the audience where they are. And I think creating a space that allows people to just dip their toe in, if that's where they're at, that's great. Or if they're ready to take the plunge and dive head first, having that as well. And so really having a space that holds the full spectrum is crucial.
Definitely. And so you, right now, United Purpose does not have a space yet, or what's going on with where you see...
That would have, that in the past, if you asked me a few months ago, that would have stressed me out. We don't have our space yet. Now it's like a relief. I just feel weight melt off my shoulders. So this started out as this grand vision for having our own physical space. We were looking at a 20,000 square foot space in the heart of Soho. Beautiful space.
Wow.
And
that sounds
great. It was amazing, because we walked in there and it was right off of our mood board that we had designed for the space. So we're like, okay, this is weird. But we went through the exercise of really looking at what we needed to do to raise the capital to launch that, and what the pressures and time requirements were, and it just didn't feel right. And so the grand vision is still to have these physical spaces, and I look at these as globally connected campuses where they would pop up in different cities around the world, and they could push and pull content and connect people and resources from anywhere in the world. I still see that as the grand vision, and I believe it will happen. But the idea is now to let it flow much more fluidly. And that's what we did, about 8 months ago. We said, okay, we want to build this space and just open up the doors and expect hundreds of people to show up and pay membership. That's not really right. We're not honoring our deeper set of principles. And so we decided to invest in the community. My business partner, Dan Dolgen, and I, we put our own capital in, we put our own time and resources in hosting 12 events and really trying to probe this space and the members and find out what they wanted. And so now we're at a place where we are going to be launching in the first quarter of the year with partner spaces. And so we saw this happen kind of by accident because we didn't have a space, that we were doing partnered events all over the place in private townhouses where we were hosting these brunches. We did a reverse panel conversation on power of mass scale movements at Foursquare. We had the last event at Red Bull Studios where we had a screening with Planetary Collective. And so real great diversity that you got access to, and we realized, that's actually a strength. The
Definitely.
ability,
Yeah, that's cool.
Especially in New York, where there's such variety that exists all over the place. And that was the other thing we were seeing, was the variety of our audience that was coming out was amazing, from education to technology. I mean, we've had astronauts and artists and you name it, people from every walk and every ilk. So that's been what we're trying to embrace. And so we're going to be launching as a member-based community, highly curated, where we're inviting 100 high-caliber, purpose-driven professionals that are all committed to improving the world around them. And so that's going to be the initial iteration that we launched with in 2014.
Yeah, that's amazing, because really, and I saw this when I was going across the country on the Millennial Trains Project, and of course just seeing it from doing research and reading the news and, kind of being in touch a little bit. But there are these spaces, these physical spaces happening all over the place too. And, you also have a lot of pop-up spaces too, where there's, intentional but brief communities that are created in, a certain place that, it's kind of an event, but it's also something different a little bit. And that is only able to happen really because of the internet, because of technology, and because of coordination, our increased ability to coordinate. And so that's actually amazing that you realize that, and that, sometimes a brick and mortar establishment is actually more of a, ball and chain than it seems like when you're first starting out. And what about, when you were going on this exploration, like when you first started out and you had an idea of who, might be coming to United Purpose, or like what was going on, like would you say that from your, curating these 100 individuals, has, like what kind of, I'm wondering, like curious, what kind of individuals are these 100 people? Like what sort of things are they doing? What's the range of disciplines, I guess, that are coming together?
Yeah, it's definitely varied. I mean, we've got people from, all ilks. And I said that diversity is one of our guiding principles, and it's probably one that we lean on most, because we really feel that, we have to bring people in from varied disciplines, from backgrounds, ages, cultures, interests that are all bringing in this varied makeup. And so that has, that has shaped into something that we didn't know what to expect, because we started out, the experiment started where we were bringing 20 people together for these 20 to 25 people for these curated brunches. And we would have a featured speaker that would seed a topic, and then we'd have conversation. And so what we then did was we opened it up, and we asked them to each invite 1 or 2 people into the next event. And they started to protect the space, which was great to see, because we wondered how that would play out. And they were really intentional about who they brought in. And it wasn't about what they did, but about what they would gain from this type of environment. And so it's definitely ranged the gamut. You know, there are thinkers and doers, and the industries they come from are all over the place. We have people from fashion to finance, from the arts to education, from technology to, anything under the sun, really. It's been from government and policy to, as I said, you know, even astronauts and explorers that are out there, taking on their own initiatives that are really pushing the boundaries. And so I'll give a couple examples. So Toby Story Pugh he's been with us since the beginning. We featured him as a speaker, and he's getting ready to climb Everest this year or next year in 2014, with the first Kenyan climber to make the ascent. And he's doing that in partnership with Toilet Hackers, and they have their Do Epic Shit campaign. Actually, Toby just walked the lane. Yeah, it's all
Do epic shit. Amen.
And you know, it's funny because you could look at this from the outside and think, oh, this guy's just looking to climb Everest. It's about, you know, it's pure masculinity, just trying to dominate and be this, you know, this embodiment of achievement in a physical sense. But that's not what it's about at all. And it goes so much deeper, and his work has so much depth to it. And he sees it as a great platform for raising awareness for clean sanitation around the world. And when we look at these initiatives, you know, water is the sexy thing, right? Clean water. But one of the biggest issues out there that's affecting many, many people is clean sanitation, and it doesn't get that same spotlight. And so anyways, I'm going off on a tangent, but it's these individual initiatives that people are taking on. And some are, you know, we have people that are working at, you know, JP Morgan that are just, you know, in a position of having great access and power, and realize, you know, I'm not fulfilled there, and I have these skills and expertise I want to apply in a very meaningful way. So they don't necessarily have a project of their own, but they want to plug their skills into something that's already going or is about to get started.
Wow, interesting. And I think that, you know, the technical definition, the French definition of the word entrepreneur, where it originally came from, it just means somebody who undertakes. And it's really kind of evolved over the years to mean connected to economics, the larger economic system, making a certain amount of money, an individual who sees this opportunity in the economic climate and then seizes that. But from what we've been talking about, it seems like it's really maybe much more than that, or maybe we need a new word to describe this kind of, this young millennial who seeks to use their skills either on a project of their own or on somebody else's project. And it's much more diverse than just, having a single enterprise that you register as an LLC, and then, you kind of continue it for a certain amount of years, and you either get acquired or, you make it successful or you fail. It seems like there's so much more, and it's much harder to really describe and to put into a sort of pigeonhole, I guess, especially entrepreneur, like it is with such a strong background in this very classic business sense. But, the issues that we're addressing today go much further than just the challenges of the market or, of trying to make that money. The challenges that we're facing today are diverse, and they are social. Some of them are social problems, some of them are ecological problems. I think there's so much that really good work that can be done together, and yet the word entrepreneur doesn't necessarily, like in the classical sense of it, it doesn't really seem to fit, which is why I think I like the word millennial entrepreneur, because I see the millennial entrepreneur, a young person, somebody who is undertaking something, whether that's a project, artistic, anything. They are just bringing something to life, creating something from nothing, interacting with the material world and others to produce an experience, really.
I think that distinction that you're making is really important, and the term that we've been playing with that we really like is a creative problem solver. And the reason I think the old terms don't really work is they start labeling people towards what you do. And I think we're in this shift now where it's not about labeling you and putting you in a little box and saying, okay, that's what you do, that's who you are. It's about how you do it. And creative problem solving is how you approach something. And it doesn't matter what is put in front of you. If there's a challenge, you're going to use those skills and resources to figure out a solution.
Definitely. Well, so excited to talk to you more and hear a little bit about what kind of things you're going to be doing with United Purpose in the coming months. My name is Lindsea K. Wilbur. You're watching ThinkTech Hawaii, the Millennial Entrepreneur, and we're here with Bryan D'Alessandro. We'll be back in a little bit.
Aloha, I'm Jay Fidel of ThinkTech. ThinkTech is a 501c3 Hawaii nonprofit corporation. We began ThinkTech in the year 2000. At ThinkTech, we work to raise public awareness about tech, energy diversification, and globalism in Hawaii. We do 20 live stream talk shows every business day, and we do a weekly TV show on OC16. We pay the bills with donations from our supporters. Won't you help us by making a donation? All you need to do is go to our website, thinktechhawaii.com, and click there on the Donate button. We hope that you like what we do and that you will support us and help us continue to do it. Thanks so much for watching and for helping. I'm Jay Fidel of ThinkTech. Mahalo.
Hello, my name is Lindsea K. Wilbur. You're watching ThinkTech Hawaii, the Millennial Entrepreneur. We're here with Bryan D'Alessandro, and we're talking about United Purpose, a member-based organization in New York City that brings together young, creative problem solvers who seek to make the world a better place. And we were just talking about the problems with entrepreneur, the limitations of the word entrepreneur, and Bryan was talking about sort of rebranding as creative problem solver. And at the Institute for the Future, where I'm a research affiliate, we call that a social inventor, somebody who invents new ways to interact, new ways to come together, and creates experiences that really address sort of a holistic approach to the world, not purely economic, not purely cultural, not necessarily anything that can be pigeonholed into one sort of discipline, but rather just a creative way to go about an enterprise. And so at United Purpose, they are bringing these people together, holding events where speakers talk to groups of young professionals about different subjects. And Bryan, you were saying that on your website, there's also a curriculum where you talk about history and culture, leadership, design and technology, and management strategy. Sort of a multidisciplinary approach to learning how to, undertake something, or to bring, to follow your purpose and to bring your vision into reality. So can you talk a little bit about how you came up with this and what inspired you to shape this curriculum the way you did?
Yeah, and look, I don't want to give the impression that it's shaped, because it's an amorphous thing that's going to continuously evolve and is informed by the community itself. But what it grew out of is we're not looking to reinvent the wheel or have any redundancies. There's already a ton of innovation out there. There are people that are teaching you how to launch a business. They're teaching you how to raise capital. They're teaching you how to tell your story. All of these things that are giving you these tangibles. There's General Assembly who's teaching all around tech education. And we're not looking to get into that space. We think there are people that are doing it, and they're doing a great job. What we're looking to do is teach not the what, but the how you do what you do. And so it's much more about process and giving you these tools that you could wield in any endeavor that you take on. And we really look at how education has played out over the years. And for myself, I was always, the kid that was getting a progress report that said satisfactory progress, disruptive in class. And it was always disruptive in class. And it was because I was bored. These formats sucked.
You're the class clown.
They still do. Yeah. But that was because I wasn't being engaged and I wasn't able to participate. It was the old teacher-learner dynamic where someone was speaking at me instead of involving me in. And I think that's where we've seen these ideas of the flipped classroom by experiential learning by doing. And I think these are the ways of the future. Learning isn't the old static way. And especially now, when we grew up, the teacher was often the gatekeeper of the knowledge. And to a degree, teachers still are, but what a teacher is and when we're in the role of teacher has shifted. Now we all have access. We just call up Uncle Google and he's got all the answers for us. And that's, easy to get. And so education now is much more about bringing people together over interesting experiences that leave them with a unique skill, tool, or knowledge. And we kind of coined this idea of Mr. Miyagi style learning, where you come in there and you think you're painting the fence or waxing the car, and then when you leave, all of a sudden you realize you've got some crazy kung fu moves.
Nice.
And that's what really works. And we partnered up for one of our events with this amazing organization called Museum Hack. And what they do is they bring you we went to the Met, and we really started to break down the norms of what experiencing a museum is like. And you start realizing how we're usually controlled by what we're told that should be. We're stressed about making sure we see as much artwork as possible and that we know the names of the famous pieces of art, and we start taking out our own free will and our own ability to relate and connect with these different pieces, and to actually, instead of trying to connect with every one piece at the museum, to choose one or two that you want to have a deeper, more meaningful relationship with. And you think that this is just about art, but then when you step out and you look at, what the landscape is in New York, I'm sure you've heard, or maybe heard the term of fear of missing out, FOMA. I hate the term, absolutely, but there's a truth in it. People feel like they have to get to this and got to get to that, and it's personally and it's professionally. I got to go to these networking events, and when I go to an event, I have to see every person in there. But then you start realizing, oh, I could actually center myself and choose to do this in a much more meaningful way. And so I think that's an example of how you can gain one of these skills through one of these events that you could then wield as a tool in any part of your life.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. Just a clarification, you mentioned flip learning. I'm not sure if the audience is familiar with this term, but basically It's where a teacher will record videos and the students will watch those videos outside of the classroom, sort of get that content outside, and then when they come into the classroom, it's really the opportunity to do and to make and to have really experiential project-based learning. That story about Museum Hack is so interesting as well, because it really, it's so funny, like you go into a department store, and in a lot of ways it reminds me of, the big sort of classic museums that are huge and almost smell like formaldehyde a little bit. And, just like, is that how art is meant to be experienced? I think I really like that idea of questioning how it is we sort of interact with with the environment, and really look at our assumptions that we have before going into it, and sort of question that as a group.
They will be proved wrong. I mean, that's when you start realizing is, just because these are these beautiful pieces of works that are valued at millions of dollars, there's this subversive culture going on there where you start seeing, like, they took us around and showed us like 7 or 8 different pieces that all involved like spanking of bare asses at the Met. And so you start seeing this stuff that exists that you overlook, because you're thinking it has to be stodgy and pretentious, so therefore it is. And that's where our relationship really informs the experience. And I think that idea is really powerful, where we can show up and choose how we're going to hold a space or how we're going to hold an experience.
Definitely. And it's us who are, we have the ability to be intentional about that as well, is what I think is sort of this wonderful thing about human beings. For all the trouble that we cause and, for all our, faults, we do have some ability to be intentional in how we cultivate and experience the world. And it sends shivers up my spine thinking about all these, people, people who are itching to do things, who are going through this experience with United Purpose, having these learning experiences like Museum Hack, where it's not necessarily about entrepreneurship in this classical sense where, you are learning how to write your pitch or something like that, but it's addressing this deeper level, your belief system. And really, an entrepreneur is so much informed by that culture. The opportunities that they see, the enterprises that they decide to undertake, how they frame it, how they brand it, how they, go after that dream is so much informed by the belief systems, by these cultural learning opportunities that we've been given throughout our lives and our experiences, and then we act from those. So I think that where you're addressing, what you're attempting to address with United Purpose seems like the most impactful place. And, on our last show with Patrick Dowd, the CEO of the Millennial Trains Project, we were talking about a sort of a similar topic as well. We were talking about impact and how you measure impact in social ventures, which is, kind of a, can be, well, there's just so many different ways to measure impact. What is impact anyways? And is it quantifiable, that sort of thing? Like, how long do you measure it into the future? Like, how do you see really the full dividends of this? And he was saying that, on the train project, there's 24 young people, and, we're going through the community. We're having all these experiences very similar to what you're talking about in the Mr. Miyagi education sense of it, where you don't really know. You kind of expect something going in. Your expectations then get thrown out the window, and you're sort of like, what is even going on here? Like, and you have this moment of sort of, looking around and realizing that so much of your perspective has been shifted from this experience. And that's really like, that's your self-perception. That's how you view the world. And Patrick and I were both, me as a participant who really experienced it, Patrick as the curator of this experience, we both agreed that that's where we felt the best and the most impactful work really can be done in terms of fostering sort of entrepreneurship or this creative problem solving that you speak of. And so you have a partner in the center, or talk about your team a little bit. What's the team behind United Purpose?
Yeah, so Dan Dolgen has been my partner since the beginning on it, and we've iterated, and we've had people come in and out of the project and advisors that are continuing to support us, but ultimately it's been the two of us, and then the chairwoman of our board who's helping us build out the board is Marilia Becerra, who's an incredible woman. She's like the mama that comes in with just a lot of love and experience for holding space in this way. And so it's been a very fluid way of working, and based on the needs of pulling together events, we've done that through partnerships and by people volunteering and coming together. And so we're at the stage now where we're getting ready to raise some funding for the launch in early 2014. And that'll allow us to build out the team, which we're very much looking forward to, because we've been wearing a lot of hats, and it's great for development, but it comes a time where you've got to expand. So I'm excited to get there.
Yeah, that's so wonderful. Well, it was an absolute pleasure talking to you, Bryan. Thank you so much for joining us, and I really look forward to following United Purpose, and hopefully maybe having some United Purpose events here in Honolulu. We have quite a diverse and exciting scene of young artists and creative problem solvers and entrepreneurs, and I'd really love to get them involved in this global movement that you're starting. Yeah, thank you. My name is Lindsea K. Wilbur, and you're watching ThinkTech Hawaii. We've just been talking about what it means to be a young person today, undertaking an enterprise and bringing visions of a better world into the present through creative problem solving and collaboration, and sounds like damn good time. Thanks for watching. Aloha.